What up, what up, what up? It is Friday, December 6th. Yay to the weekend. Today on Reported, we have some aftermath of the election coverage. Shortly after Donald Trump was declared the victor, Black Harris supporters took to X, formerly Twitter, to disavow BIPOC and POC language because of the difference between how Black people voted and how other racial minorities voted. NBC News exit polling broke down which groups of people voted for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. Trump got 60% of white men and 53% of white women, while Harris got 77% of Black men and 92% of Black women. Trump also won Latino men with 54% of their vote, while Harris won 58% of Latino women. 49% of all other races voted for Harris. On X, Black Harris supporters said other racial minorities not backing her as much as they did helped send Trump back to the White House for a second term, and indicated that there's a difference between being Black and POC. From Taurus Supreme, this election has me feeling very I'm Black, not POC. From the Black Hokage, all this election did was remind me why I have and never will like the term POC. Black folks have allowed themselves to be lumped in with others who don't have their best interest in mind. The community has to stop falling for this play and stick together. From Brittany, that's why I reject that POC stuff hard. I am not a POC. I am Black. Two totally different things. Too many POCs want to be white. From Hannah Ama, in my voting era, at least the myth of POC is finally dead. Black people and Black women specifically, we ain't got no one but us, and honestly, that's freeing. I will be selfish and put me and mine first and let the universe take care of the rest. And lastly, from loading, as I've been saying since the representation era started, separate Black from POC. We are not the same and don't want the same things. Here to make it all make sense is Kelly Wright, a race and language professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Kelly, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Kelly, you've heard the background, you've heard and seen the tweets. What do you make of this separation occurring?
It's not entirely unexpected. I work for a quarterly dictionary of American usage. It's called Among the New Words, and we documented the term BIPOC, BIPOC, in 2021. And at that time, there was not really consensus around what it meant, which groups it gathers, and who it represents. So the this like event, the election, the results of the election seems to be like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Mm. And what about the election do you think has prompted these very passionate pleas for the separation to occur?
I think in some ways it's those, the day after breakdowns of demographics for who voted for whom in, I suppose, exit polling, which, is not always completely representative, but I feel like large groups, especially Black people and Black women, felt like they really organized during the last election, and then in 2020, and now again in 2024. They don't want to be lumped in with people who have really different views that affect their future and their everyday lives. So it makes sense why this term is part of the site of that discussion,
Mhm.
because language and identity are linked.
Absolutely. And I think with BIPOC or just with POC, it emerged as a term of solidarity, right? It was intended to be a quote unquote good thing. Do you still see a way for that to be possible in light of the election?
That's a good question because the term has had a bit of a life. It started in Canada, with musicians, a group of musicians who it's interesting that it does in some ways come back to like federal funding or representation on an institutional level, because they were able to gather a coalition of musicians, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. it also was used in some ways before that with a small I to mean bisexual people of color, which to me is really interesting to think that that's like, that is absolutely a solidarity group, but it's like a small group that points in a different direction. And in some ways it points towards the conversations that we first had when like LGBT was emerging. You know, it went from LGB, LGBT, LGBTIA, Q star, you know,
Right,
so I
right.
think that maybe we'll see some sort of, you know, reevaluation of the BIPOC term to be more descriptive, more specific, or to point to leave out Black and Indigenous people because these seem to be the groups that are resisting it the most, and turn POC into a term that's much more descriptive. Because in the past we've had things like, you know, like black and brown people, or yeah, but it's just this. It's I think in some ways the term serves institutions and white people to be able to say all of these non-white people in a way that doesn't sound like all of these non-white people. And so in a lot of ways, that term others more than it includes.
Mm.
And so I think, yeah, I think that there something was going to happen, something was going to tip the scale, like this lexically, to make this conversation come forward. And it's been bubbling up since the beginning. So the election, I mean, it's been very divisive, you know, splitting families in two, and really challenging some of the things that a lot of folks hold dear, including the Black community, which many people sat out of this election because they didn't feel represented. So yeah, it's not particularly surprising.